So what oil and gas does very well is that they instill a innovative culture at the onset. So it's part of the journey. And what mining struggles with is that for so long, we've isolated technology and innovation.
Mining is under growing pressure to modernize while operating in increasingly complex and constrained environments. Yet many of the technologies mining is now exploring have already been stress tested elsewhere. The oil and gas industry has spent decades deploying advanced digital systems, managing high-scale consequence risk and scaling innovation across global operations. The question now is whether mining is ready to learn and how far those lessons can really travel. To help us answer those questions, we're joined by Thabile Makgala, who is the Executive VP at Sasol. Thabile, thank you so much for your time. So we're looking at an industry that's entering a new phase of digital transformation, so to speak. So from your perspective, is this the right moment for mining to be learning from a sector like oil and gas?
This is absolutely the right time for mining to be learning from oil and gas. And for me, mining is at a great advantage because oil and gas has paid the school fees for the mining industry. They've explored the various technologies in harsh, hazardous, and highly regulated environments. So mining can just steal with pride. Also, when we look at the mining sector, we're under pressure in as far as productivity is concerned and cost pressures. And technologies that have worked in oil and gas are absolutely the right ones in as far as helping the mining industry, as an example, with predictive maintenance, ensuring that we've got accurate data for our underground mining operations. So this is absolutely the right time.
What is the challenge for mining? Is it tech availability, or is it more of a mindset, culture, and perhaps even risk tolerance that they'll have to, face?
So the mining industry does have a challenge in as far as adoption is concerned. So when we look at adoption and where mining is on the curve, we are slightly behind. And for me, the issue is that it's a mindset shift. And that's what mining has not done well. We explore a lot of opportunities and pilot various opportunities, but if the mindset shift is not there to yet adopt these technologies, it does become a problem. So we're not short of technologies, but it's the cultural and change management. That is where the mining industry needs to up the game.
In a different sector, a few years ago, we used to talk about how whether the financial services or banks can leapfrog legacy systems because at the time they were dealing with the fintech challenges. When we're looking at the mining sector, does it have the ability to be able to leapfrog those legacy systems, especially at a time where we want to talk about perhaps direct transferability? Does that exist?
Absolutely. So mining can leapfrog the systems. As I've said before, the oil and gas have tried and tested various technologies. So the opportunity is there. And you can transfer the skills as well that are coming from the oil and gas sector into the mining to assist the mining industry leapfrog these systems.
We often say that tech adoption either fails or wins with people. From your experience, especially where you're coming from, what can the oil and gas industry share differently towards the mining industry that they can almost learn from each other when it comes to what we can do and what we can't, given that oil and gas has already paid that school fees?
So what oil and gas does very well is that they instill a innovative culture at the onset. So it's part of the journey. And what mining struggles with is that for so long, we've isolated technology and innovation. So the key and a lesson to be learned from the oil and gas industry is that from the onset, you inculcate that culture and that mind shift change, which is, mining lags so often. So there's definitely some learnings from oil and gas there.
We touched a little bit about skills and the transferability of skills. What about talent mobility across the sector? Do you find that some people might think that maybe it's not for me, or is there that excitement that I've learned something in oil and gas and I can definitely share those learnings with my colleagues or my counterparts in the mining sector. Is there that openness to be able to cross-pollinate across sectors?
So as you said, I'm from Sasol, and we are very fortunate at Sasol because we are an integrated company. So our integration encompasses mining, it encompasses oil and gas, as well as chemical operations. So we are fortunate that we can take the skills from the chemicals, oil and gas, and transfer them to our mining operations as an example. So if you're an engineer, you can be an engineer in oil and gas or chemicals, and you can also be an engineer in the mining industry. If you're a data scientist, you can also transfer those skills. So I think Sasol, the organization that we are, does afford us that opportunity, and we can see firsthand what it looks like in practice.
Safety, health, and environment are at the core of many people's operations. What can mining learn from what oil and gas is doing right when it comes to that space?
You know, when we look at oil and gas, we talk about process safety and the consequence, because if you have an incident in oil and gas, the consequences are massive. When we look at underground safety, an example, we look at occupational safety. You know, it's a lot of incidents that we have. The consequences may vary. So because of that, oil and gas really focus, they don't want things to go wrong. So their safety systems in terms of accuracy, preventative maintenance, unplanned stoppages, those are the things that, you know, they are quite adamant upon. And as mining, we can also take those lessons because we do want to prevent things from going wrong. And what oil and gas has done very well as well is that they work on foresight instead of hindsight. And in mining, we like to report what has happened instead of being predictive. So those are all the initiatives that we can take from oil and gas to ensure that we are operating more safely in an underground environment.
What advice would you have for mining leaders who want to accelerate innovation within, you know, this particular sector without necessarily reinventing the wheel?
So for mining leaders, I would say still with pride what oil and gas does, because they've mastered, you know, the technology that improves the day-to-day work. And that's what you want to do. You want to make life easy for any operator underground. So master the day-to-day improvement. Also what oil and gas has done very well is that they adapt innovation, you know, very well and inculcate that mindset shift from the onset. And that's what mining can do. And for me, for mining, the mining organizations that will win, you know, this are the ones who select the few critical technological steps, are the ones who are very clear up front about what it is that they want to achieve. And mining is at a crossroads now, you know, with cost pressures rising, productivity, safety, and sustainability. You know, we don't have a choice but to innovate.
Thank you so much, Thabile. For more mining insights, you can go to miningindaba.com.